So corruption has impacted the ability of countries around the world to manage their healthcare responses to the coronavirus pandemic. That's according to Transparency International's 2020 Corruption Perceptions Index report. It's revealed that COVID-19 wasn't just a health and economic crisis, but a corruption crisis with countless lives lost due to the effects of graft. The report also shows that South Africa barely shifted its position, scoring 44 out of 100 on the corruption score. It was ranked of 69 alongside Bulgaria and Hungary out of 179 countries. We speak more on this. We're joined by Mashudu Masutha from Corruption Watch. A very good afternoon to you, Mashudu, and thank you very much for joining us. So why do these indices matter, especially this one for corruption?
Well, I think the most important thing with this report and what it indicates is that, well, on the first hand, it's not necessarily the public's perception of corruption. It is an expert analysis on public sector corruption. So this is sources from the IMF, the World Bank, think tanks, and academics alike. And I think what's most important about it is that you're seeing that most countries have not shifted, and that has been the reality for almost 10 years. And secondly, being that 2/3 of the 180 countries that were surveyed rank below the average point. So you have a situation where a concerning number of countries are considered highly corrupt jurisdictions. And that's very concerning with the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the rollout of surveys around the globe, the rollout of vaccines around the globe.
That South Africa failed to move above the 50-point mark on the index for nearly 10 years tells us what?
I think it's really an indication of two things. I think on the one hand, it's an indication that there has been systemic corruption within public sector that has not been able to be managed by government. And the president for a very long time has been talking about how, the prioritization of anti-corruption initiatives, and that's high on his agenda to manage that corruption. So we're seeing that there's a systemic corruption that is unable to be managed. And secondly, that the institutions that are designed to be oversight bodies and that are designed to deal with corruption are unable to, for a number of reasons, whether it's resource, whether it's capacity, whether it's the fact that they don't have the necessary enforcement. So we're seeing an issue of not only of the oversight institutions, but that corruption has manifested itself in such a way that accountability measures have not been working or have not been enforced by government.
The way forward, the impact is very evident on the ground when it comes to everyday people in South Africa.
Well, combating corruption, especially now with the COVID-19 pandemic, where we've seen that corruption is as much of a crisis and a pandemic as it is an economic and health crisis. The real, solution to combating corruption is really, on the first hand, to report corruption. So to report, to see corruption, to understand what it is, and to report it to the necessary institutions, and to know that there are institutions like Corruption Watch that are available for you to report instances of corruption. So to promote that active citizenry. And then on the second aspect of combating corruption is to strengthen those very oversight bodies. So to ensure that there is the capacity and the resources and enforcement to ensure that those integrity institutions that have been established, whether they're within the ANC or otherwise, have the necessary enforcement. So there's a transparency and there's a view by the public that government is in fact managing this corruption issue, and they are doing something about it and enforcing those accountability instruments.
Thank you very much. Corruption Watch's Mashudu Masutha.